what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Infusion Breakdown Show, where we go over everything from world events to philosophy. To my left, we got Mr. Bryan Carey. To my right, got Mr. Desmond Tillmon. The topic for today, the question for today is going to be: do all people have equal value regardless of their actions, or is a person's value based on their actions? So I don't know how you guys feel about this. I don't know if you guys are conflicted at all. Me first. It's kind of hard.
Me first. We don't even get the option to say.
I thought he was going.
If you want to go first.
Well, me first.
I mean, if you want to go first, hey, let me know. But I just feel it's based on. I'm gonna say it's based off of actions. I would say it's based off actions because I feel what we do define us. Not everything we do, of course. If as far as our mistakes too, I feel that doesn't always have to define us. But I feel that our actions should most of what we do should define us because I feel we are in control of what we do. You understand? So that's just how I feel as far as that. I don't know how you guys look at it. You guys probably look at it a different way. How you look at it?
I'll take it.
You got it.
So I absolutely agree. I believe that a person's value is determined by their actions. And people they confuse the notion of us being created equal and right, like we all have the same rights and should be respected the same, but we're not the same in value. Some members of society contribute way more than others. Like most of the accomplishments and the innovations are done by the minority of people. And, we'd be ignorant to say that Bill Gates doesn't have a higher value than I do in society, which is...
You said you'd be ignorant to say?
Yeah, no, to dispute that. That's fairly obvious.
Okay.
That's my stance on it. It's like we have a subconscious system where we assign value to people. Like it's inseparable from where we were set up. So like look at the way we date. So how do you choose who you want to date? There's a value assigned to them. You'd rather date someone else than someone else. Otherwise, you'd just be happy and date anyone, and nothing else would be. Would come as a consequence of that. And the same thing like sports teams, right? There's a draft pick. The number 1 pick is way better than the 23rd pick. So there's
Not necessarily.
should be
According
according to statistics. You're right. Yeah, but
Kwame Brown got some explaining to do. Goddamn.
Like the values are inseparable from the way we look at things. So I think that I agree with you. I have to agree with you. Totally, 100%.
So basically, you're saying based off what we put to the table, basically what you're saying. So I know you said Bill Gates. He's obviously a monumental figure. So he has more value because of what he puts to the table in society, basically.
Right. We should all have the same rights and should be respected as human beings equally. But we should also take into account that people have individual values.
Gotcha. Makes sense. What's up, Desi?
I sense a rebuttal coming.
I'm only coming up with a rebuttal because this is topic in itself is like based off of societal norms. You would say that we have value, but I feel like with value becomes monetary assessment based off of their contributions, and I feel like we could say that. How am I going to word this? Based off of what you guys are saying, I agree 100%. But to what extent are we? Like, what are the I'm not going to say parameters, but what are the requirements of value based off of contributions? Like, if y'all could break that down. So
in their respective realms. So you can say like, okay, so I work in the tech industry, right? So once again, Bill Gates, he's made way more of a contribution within the industry. So that gives you, defining it to one specific industry gives you one realm or one dimension to narrow it down to. So it's easy to measure that value.
But do you necessarily think that giving people value is beneficial to society?
I think it's a necessity.
Why a necessity? Because if we're looking at do all people have equal value regardless of their actions, we're looking at, and not to like put on my political hat, but we're looking at someone in the Oval Office who has constantly switched up his statements week in and week out, constantly has lied about what he does, and has insulted races, has insulted many ethnic groups, but because he's in the most powerful position in the world, I'm supposed to believe his life necessarily has more value than mine.
See, but that's where the criteria is really skewed with that one. For example, he had no credibility in the political realm. He had no prior experience with that. So that's just a whole anomaly to itself. That doesn't take into account the criteria based where I judge and derive value from. So that's I can't speak on that.
I feel like you're moving the goalpost though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you're moving the goalpost because regardless of his political inexperience, he managed to amass a political campaign, amass a bunch of supporters who supported him knowing he had no experience, to then put him in the office or put him in the position as the most powerful man on the planet. So how are we going to move the goalposts based off of what your criteria is? Because regardless of his experience in the political realm, he has now became into power in the most powerful position in that political realm, regardless of his experience or not. Right. So how am I going to say somebody who morals and values are fucked up, how does his life have more value? Like, what exactly is he contributing to, per se?
Collectively, we need to be smarter. That's the only way.
I feel like, but if we're saying collectively we need to be smarter, then I feel like it's also important for us to not attach value to human life to where we're giving somebody more value, more sway. Because essentially, if we're giving people more value, we're increasing our leniency to where certain things that they do, the punishment for them is going to be less severe than if I were to do the same thing. I might spend 25 to life behind bars if I run somebody over and accidentally kill them, and I can't prove that it was an accident. You let Bill Gates come in and he runs somebody over and kills them, he's not going to serve 25 to life because his life means that much more to society than what mine did. But who is to say that? Yeah, his work stands for itself, but at the end of the day, he's a human being just as I am. So why does his life matter more than mine, regardless of his contribution? Because then you're setting a negative precedent to where people aren't viewed in a fair way. And the law is designed at its base to be fair to man, no matter what color it is. And we can see, just, from society in itself, that law necessarily isn't fair, but it was designed to be fair. It should have been designed to be fair, per se.
Right.
And so I guess my only discontent with your guys' argument is that, well, what is that value? What is the criteria for value that doesn't revolve around monetary power or anything of that nature? Like, what is that value?
Okay. Specifically, when I was referring to value, I had in mind the notion of areas of expertise. So it's the same as you would be more likely to consult with somebody who has years of experience versus somebody who's just starting. That's what the value will come into play. That's on a very individualistic basis, not in terms of making assessments based upon who should live or die or who should go to jail for X amount of years. In the instance where they commit the same crime.
Okay.
But I do see what that will prove very problematic.
Yeah. I think where you're looking at valuable, I think I would define that as like an asset to where he adds some benefit to my life. Like his life, he doesn't have more value than me, but because he, like you said, he has some area of expertise, he's able to give me advice on something that I have no knowledge about, per se. Or he's able to do things for society that, other people can't do.
And his opinion is much more respected in his respective realm.
But should that give him more value, or should that just give him more, quote unquote, political gain?
That's exactly how I would define value.
Okay.
So if not value, what is that?
I don't know. This is very.
It's interesting, but because you go back to him and you say as far as value, I was just thinking he probably has value. He has value as far as him being over office because a lot of he gives off value to, like, I want to say richer people, because richer people find value in him rather than someone like Obama or something like that. So I feel he does have type of value, but since it doesn't align with the value that you hold, it's different. That's the only thing. But he does have that's what he does hold value. So that goes back to the actions thing. If those actions, though, of course, don't benefit you, does it really? Can you really say?
Does he add value?
Yeah.
Well, see, that's another thing, because value is completely subjective. We all individually are assigning the value to a certain individual based upon how we perceive them.
So it's almost like an agree to disagree.
Yeah, I'm not moving.
Easy.
I'm being Desmond today.
That
I ain't moving.
that kind of goes into like the next question of are intentions or outcomes more important when judging whether actions are whether actions are moral. Like, some people might look at his intention, or I look at the outcomes, not just what he's putting out there. Look at the outcomes, like, oh, hey, if a lot of people, like, just an example, like, if a lot of people had to die for this many people to live, then it is what it is. But that's the outcome. It's a positive outcome. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I just feel that goes into that question. What do you guys feel? Do you guys feel that what's more important, intentions or outcomes, when it comes to judging whether morals or whether actions are moral? Anyway, what do you guys think?
You can take this one first.
Okay. So I know the way that we people think by a large margin is we judge others by their actions and ourselves by our intent, and I think that's completely wrong, because we're doing others a disservice by not affording them the very same criteria how we're judging what actually happened.
You feel it should be backwards?
No, I think you should take both into consideration equally.
Oh, it's not.
Like, if per se we're friends, right? So let's say you do something that I feel I've been wrong, or just like I said, that I've been wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important for me to think, for one, what happened, and then two, did you actually mean to offend me or piss me off or whatever you want to say, and then come to a conclusion at the end of that. Because 9 times out of 10, most people, even if they do have an action that does offend you or goes against you, that wasn't their intent. And you can't just be like a Judge Judy type character where you're just like really strict and by the book and judge people like that. You have to take everything into account, because everything is a unique situation. So I can't really say whether one is more important than the other. I think they're equal. And for you to take only one half of the equation into account is completely negligent.
It's irrational.
Yeah.
That's how I was going down to.
What, as far as
What he was getting at as far as like taking one or the other into account is the rational thought.
Why do you feel that exactly? Because of the same reason?
Exactly. Are intentions or outcomes more important when judging whether actions are moral? I had that thought. I was like, do you feel, I had like a talk before about like morality, and do y'all feel like that's kind of like man-made per se?
Moral?
Yeah,
Josh
morality.
He's posed that question before.
Yeah. Morality, yeah. Definitely man-made as far as what's good and what's bad and everything like that. Of course, we make it up as far as like, some people might feel having sex with an animal is wrong. Some people do it. It just depends. So.
It's wrong, by the way.
Okay.
To
you.
Hey,
but there's other people out there. I'm just saying.
Hey, man, call Peter, dog.
But just throw that out there. But yeah, that's how I feel about that.
Our intentions or outcomes more important?
Right.
If we're looking at like more important, then I agree 100%. Like, I'm not gonna say I agree. If we're looking at outcomes, I have to look at, or if we're looking at what's more important, I have to say like the outcome, because there's a lot of people who unintentionally do good, and there's a lot of people that intentionally do good, but the result is bad. Like, think about how many doctors like take everything into consideration of what they're supposed to do, but because they didn't know said patient or certain patients were allergic to certain medications, and then they accidentally killed that patient based off of whatever medications they injected into them. There were good intentions, but a bad outcome. If you kind of understand what I'm trying to get at.
Definitely.
So this question really is this topic this week isn't right down my alley. So I'm trying to provide like the most unbiased answer I can.
What's your bias answer? I'm curious about that.
Yeah, me too.
Me? I'm more focused on like the outcome because I don't care why you did it. You did it.
I kind of figured that.
And I can't continuously take your feelings into consideration of what you meant to do because what you meant to do then never came to fruition. And now I have to live with what you did, which is the outcome, regardless of whatever you claim your intentions were. Because people can do wrong and claim that their intentions were good, but you never know that because all you're stuck with is the outcome, which is why like I try not to be irrational. But at times, I just can't give people the benefit of the doubt because you never really know what their intentions are. You kind of have to judge things based off the outcome. Because if you go through life trying to understand what everyone's intentions are you truly living for yourself? Because you're going to spend more time stressing on, well, did this person mean to do this?
Right.
Whether they meant to do it or not, the outcome is there. Like, yeah, you can take intentions into consideration and give second chances, but at the end of the day, like that's just a case by case basis.
So you're agreeing that the intent and the actual action itself are both equal parts, but you're more concerned with what actually materialized.
Yeah.
I'd say it's weighted more heavily, but can't really.
If it's weighted more heavily, then you can kind of say it's more important.
You could make that argument.
But you said both, right?
Yeah,
You said both.
they're both on this. They both need to be taken into consideration and weighted equally. But it's kind of a paradox.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, you can't. The
try so
reason
hard.
I say it's weighted more heavily is because you can't. An intention isn't something that's tangible. You can't see an intent. That's the only reason. Other than that, I would say they're equal.
And you try so hard to like play the rational role and be rational, but being rational gives you too many gray hairs.
We don't live in a rational world.
We don't. And to make the assumption that everyone is rational, you'd be selling yourself short, like on everything. You'd be selling yourself short.
Interesting.
What do you think about that, though?
I I actually disagree. But I understand as far as what you guys say, as far as what you're saying, as far as both, you can't judge either or, and as far as what you're saying, you feel outcomes are more important. I go by intentions.
Oh,
I feel it's I feel like I'm not saying I can sense intentions, but I just feel I can find out what a person's intention is, and I feel that can make the outcome more clear for me, if that makes sense. But
sometimes
I can't.
it's self-evident.
Yeah. Sometimes it's self-evident, but of course, everything, of course. But I feel that at certain points, I know what your intentions are, and if I know what your intentions are, the outcome is this, but deep down you feel this way. That's kind
You know what their agenda is.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's like an agenda type thing. Like, okay, yeah, you freed all the slaves, but you don't like black people, so I don't understand. You still feel black people are inferior to white people, so
Right, power move.
yeah. So that's how I look at it.
This is the first time we all disagree.
Really?
Yeah.
It's like the second episode.
I mean, but all the
Yeah.
Wait, say that
lead up to
again.
it.
He freed. You don't like black people, but you still freed all the slaves.
Okay. Say for instance, like you free all the slaves, but you still feel black people are inferior to white
Abraham
people.
Lincoln.
Yeah, I know that, but I'm trying to like. I feel like that example is focused more on the outcome than it is the intention.
I look at it as more of an intention thing, because I feel like I don't look at it as like, oh yeah, you freed the slave. I'm looking like,
He
okay, you
used
freed the
all the
slave.
black people.
Like, okay, I'm like, okay, you did that, but fuck, you still don't like me. Like, you still feel I'm inferior to you. Like, you don't look at me equal type thing. You understand where I'm coming from?
I do, but I feel like if you feel that way, you're doing it for gain. You're not doing it out of kindness of heart. And I feel like intentions should speak more on character and kindness of heart and how things come to fruition than kind of like just.
How you feel? I'm looking at it more as a gain. What do you mean?
Well, there's no.
You said that's more of a gain, right?
Yeah, like I mean. How I look at history is like he freed the slaves for political gain,
Absolutely.
not personal gain. I think it was more political. So I think he's focused more. That's more of an outcome based situation than it is.
I have a quote. So Abraham Lincoln was quoted saying that if he could have preserved the Union of the United States without freeing a single Negro, he would do it.
I understand what you're saying, but I feel like that specific example was more outcome based than intentions based.
Oh, I got you. Makes sense. But I'm not deferring.
But on your side, you can also say he used an entire population of people and future generations.
Yeah,
so that could be even worse.
And I understand the outcome premise of it. I totally understand. Like I totally get it. Like, yay, we got it. Like at the end, we went through all this, but we there, we made it. We got through all the hard work. But I just feel that's more of a, not even like a Trump supporter type thing, but I feel you looking at it through a different type of lens, like the opposite lens. Like, okay, hey, I don't care how many people you had to kill to get there. You got there, that's good. You benefited. That's all that matters. I feel it's more of a selfish way how you look at it, of course, you know.
Hey, bro, don't put us all that. Don't put all that selfishness over here, man.
I was just saying. I mean, that's how I look at it.
We take some of that back. Okay, we all disagree. We just gonna put it right there.
But yeah, I just feel like, but I do understand how, as far as how you say outcomes, and I definitely understand how you're talking about you can't judge either or. But I mean, I'm like, choose a side, goddamn. Choose a side. But I understand.
Ultimately, you have to.
Yeah.
Do you?
But to actually go off of that, do you feel that if you looked at like if everybody in the world looked at outcomes, that then the world would be different? Like, do you feel that? How do you feel the world would be? Like, if they looked at your lens.
So I can
They would. Oh, I'm sorry, bro. I was gonna say if they looked at the world through my lens, they would. And this is like the irrational part of me, but if they looked at irrational part, if they looked at the world through my lens, they would be ignoring a lot of harm inflicted on innocent people per se, because there's a lot of things in history where the outcome was great, but the intentions were poor.
So it only works in a microcosm type of way rather than a macro?
Yeah. Because, I mean, think about, and I think this is probably the only political example, as a political scientist, but the only political example I could give is like the Middle East and the instability there. The intentions was to take out terrorist groups. Great intentions, but by you taking out terrorist groups, the outcome is you create great instability in the region. Mm-hmm. Or, I'm sorry, it's not terrorist groups. You're removing a government, authoritarian government regimes where essentially the leader is not doing what's in the best interest of his people. And by you removing these figureheads, you're allowing terrorist groups to run rampant in the area.
Because they're not properly equipped
exactly.
to take it for themselves.
Exactly. So really, it becomes into almost like a ground war to where people are trying to collect their territory and they do whatever they see fit for those people.
If those outcomes are beneficial, who's to say if that's the wrong thing, though?
They're not beneficial.
Or if the outcome's not beneficial?
I don't think there's any beneficial outcome to allowing terrorists to run a region.
No, I'm not even talking about that scenario. I'm just talking about as far as going back, as far as everybody looking at outcomes rather than just intentions.
No, like I told you before, it's a very irrational thought. I hate to say it because it speaks on me, but it's an irrational thought to where
it's rational for you.
No,
It's not irrational.
I'm still acknowledging that it's irrational.
Okay.
I know the rational thing to do is to look at intentions, but if I'm looking at intentions, then I'm trying to break down what somebody truly meant. And if I feel like I have to break down what somebody truly meant, then they never came to me and said what they truly meant. I'm trying to make excuses for somebody else of why something didn't come out that way. I think that's what I've been trying to say the entire time. And I just haven't been able to get the flow of the train of thought. But that's the exact reason why I focus more on the outcome, because there are a lot of people who do bad and don't apologize. There's a lot of people who are so prideful, so self-conscious to where like, well, I have nothing to apologize for. You shouldn't have made me mad. Even though they know they did wrong, I'm not here to try and break down what somebody truly meant, because then I'm creating a false narrative that really is I can't. My viewpoint of why somebody might have did it is completely different than why they actually chose to do it.
Right.
So if you understand, or if you're following per se.
Yeah.
But
Well, see, to answer your question about how different the world would be, so what I've noticed is anytime there's a spectrum, if you go too far in either direction, it's not good. So let's say you go too far to the side where you're judging people off their intent. You're far too forgiving, far too liberal, if you want to say. I was trying to avoid saying that.
it is what calls me to say.
Yeah. Far too lenient, liberal, all that. But if you go too far to the right, then you're far too strict, very, very bleak. You just don't want to go there. So either way,
I try to find that middle ground, but it's just today's day and age is just so hard to know what's real and what's not. And I think that's just because of the age group we're in. Of course, as I get older, raising a son, I have to look at his intentions, and so I can correct what he's doing wrong, so he can get that positive outcome. But just being from my own personal experience of 24 years of life, I've been somebody who's tried to be more in the middle or somebody who's further left, and it's caused more. I don't want to say sadness, but it's caused more pain than it's cost me more pain than it has given me joy, by trying to be more rational, looking at what somebody meant, trying to make excuses for them, than actually taking things at face value. Because if you take things at face value, it's like, all right, great, this is what they meant, move on. If you're trying to think of what somebody's intentions are, if that outcome was negative, then you spend so much unnecessary time, idle time, thinking of what somebody meant. And that's even if somebody does something good and their intentions were good. You're now trying to model yourself after what you've seen work. Where really you should kind of base your train of thought off of a trial and error. You do what works, and then and if something doesn't work, then you refrain from doing it again. Because I feel like if you're trying to follow something you've seen work, yeah, it's the quickest path to success because you've visually seen it works. But what's stopping you from creating your own path to success?
Mm-hmm.
So looking at intentions, it kind of goes down to am I living for me, or am I living for somebody else? And I know just hearing that in itself sounds like, how the fuck did we get from morals and intentions and outcomes? But that's just how I process it. I've tried to stop looking at what other people think, because it kind of influences how I act.
Mm-hmm.
If I look at your intentions and I realize that this is what happens and this is what I did to get that reaction, then I'm going to start changing what I did. And in a rational world, if you're looking at relationships, that's great thinking.
Mm-hmm.
But in an irrational world, I feel like you have to match irrational world with irrational thought. Don't give people second chances to fuck you over, per se. Take that outcome for what it is, not look at what they might have going on. Just realize that wasn't a good fit, and then you move forward.
Yeah, I definitely feel it's definitely gray area in between, of course. But it's just certain examples I was listening to. Yeah, of course I wouldn't, of course, just go by straight intentions and won't look at the outcome for that. Of course, it just depends. But mainly what I'm talking about is just intentions. But I definitely understand what you're talking about, though.
And I think what I can commend about you looking at intentions over outcome is you're not judging somebody's character based off of their negatives.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm necessarily judging their character based off of negatives. I just know that if I'm seeing an outcome that doesn't best benefit me, I'm going to experience that same outcome in the future unless they show me that they're willing to change. And a lot of people, you will go through pain after pain after pain until they realize, their faults. And you could be waiting for months, you can be waiting for years. Some people who fuck up once and that flip switches in their head and then they get on their shit, but there's a lot of people in this world who will make the same fuck ups over and over and over again, and it takes them losing somebody to actually realize, okay, now I need to get my shit together. Or it takes
maturity.
Yeah. It's that near death experience, and it might actually be near death, but it's like, that one thing that if I would have really got fucked up, I would have been at rock bottom, and I don't know if I would have ever got back on my grind from there.
Makes sense.
I feel like we had to go off on a tangent though, because the questions in themselves are like so basic that if you don't elaborate, then they're just like, okay.
Well, I think it's very. I like the way they're structured because they're very vague and they allow you to take it in whatever direction. We get to apply them in different situations. Because you see, like even with the first one, we all had different perspectives based upon the frame of reference we had. Like I was using it as defining someone's value in terms of what they can contribute in a specific realm. Where you were talking about whether somebody's monetary value across a wide area. And I forgot what your perspective was on that.
I forgot too.
But you get the point.
Nah, bro, you're gonna have to go back, man.
Run it real quick.
But what do you feel as far as people look at more, the outcome, as far as in today's society, outcomes or the intentions of people?
Do you really want to know?
I think the outcome.
It's definitely the outcome. It's definitely the outcome.
Why do you say that?
From exactly what I said before. Like, you take something at face value, and then you realize that life is like this never-ending cycle until the day you die. Like, you're going to go through shit, whether you're going through it with the same person or you're going through it with multiple people. Like, take outcome at face value, and then just realize that, the world doesn't end because something doesn't go your way. Mm-hmm. You're going to have a chance to dissect somebody's intentions in the future. But you dissecting somebody's intention right now might not be what's in the best interest for you. Take somebody's actions at face value, take the outcome at face value, and then just move on. Like, you trying to salvage too many relationships in life, whether it be business or personal, isn't necessarily always what's in your best interest. Because sometimes you got to burn the whole house down to just realize what you truly need in life. And I feel like I'm at that irrational point because I haven't found what I need in life or what my purpose is. Or I haven't necessarily achieved something to where I can say, okay, now I'm at a point to where I can look at people's intentions and see, them for who they really are. Because everybody fucks up. I would be lying to you if I sit here and watch this back and, I was like, you know what? I was being an irrational motherfucker, but I had gone through so much in such like a short span that, I have to understand that I have to be, very, very self-centered right now for my own growth. And then who knows where life goes from there. I'm just at a point to where outcomes matter more than the intentions.
The reason I say outcomes matter more is because me personally, I'm not familiar with the idea of a second chance. Because even whenever I've been misinterpreted and somebody else, judged my intentions wrong, and I wasn't awarded that leisure of, oftentimes you don't even get the chance to explain yourself. So just, my interaction with other people, I could definitely say they're more outcome based. They don't care about your intent.
Yeah, makes sense.
Think back to high school, bro. Think about how much drama used to happen based off of misunderstandings of because what a certain outcome was. When that person didn't even mean that to begin with. Like, Think about how much drama could have been weaved throughout in high school had you have just actually sat down and talked. And we were at that point to where that was supposed to happen. You're supposed to get those experiences. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people was just like, you know what? Fuck it. I see them at the school and then y'all do y'all thing there. Like, we were very, very irrational in high school. I think we had like you probably have been rational the whole time. But I know I went from the thing with me is I went from being rational to being irrational. Yeah. Because there were certain things that just were in my best interest for growth and development in life. So I kind of had to develop that I'm not gonna say stone cold attitude, but like taking things at face value instead of trying to dissect each and every action somebody does.
When you say I was rational, I feel
I think he was joking.
how my
I wasn't.
He was joking.
I was joking.
No, he
but,
was joking. Okay, because my thoughts are rational, but going through it's irrational. But I don't want to go into that. But
so you over here talking like you got split personalities, man. Which Josh am I gonna put on today? Am I the New York Mets Josh or am I the New York Yankees Josh, bro?
But I definitely understand that. What do you think is that beneficial as far as them looking at outcomes? Is that beneficial to society?
No.
It's
Like
not.
I said, you need both parts, and that's more apparent to me now as an adult. Because just this past year, there's so many interpersonal relationships with me and like friends and other people like that it could have came to an end because of a simple misunderstanding. Then we actually talk about it, see the intent and the action, and we see how stupid it was. It was something like they might have read a message wrong, or I phrased something wrong with my tonality, or just something, but it was a misunderstanding. And us now as adults, we're able to. Well, most people at this stage, they should have the skills to to decipher and sit down and come to a consensus and solve these issues, which at a younger age, we didn't have those skills, which is excusable then, but at a certain point, you just gotta grow up. Simple as that.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. You talked about second chances as well. You was never given second chances. Did you ever give somebody that second chances because you knew their intentions were something else? I know you mentioned like a girl. Did you ever give her like a second chance because her intentions were something like, okay, you knew her intentions were...
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think everybody does. Yeah.
Sometimes
they're like switching back and forth.
You got that soft spot for them.
Yeah, you give second chances and you get second chances.
Gotcha. Is that rational?
Absolutely.
As far as...
And are you talking about relationships?
Both, honestly.
I think they're two different things.
Two different things?
Yeah, definitely two different things.
So,
because nobody wants to be with an irrational person who doesn't have room to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes in a relationship, and there has to be room to grow. Because if you're just dealing with somebody irrational, man, it's almost like you're dealing with a parent.
You said dealing with somebody that's irrational?
Yeah, in a relationship.
Irrational relationship.
Yeah.
Okay, just like dealing with a parent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't agree?
No, I was just
Trying to think it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like dealing, and that's just my personal
When you say irrational,
personal opinion on it.
yeah, I want to say like, what do you mean as far as like irrational?
Could you give us an example?
Yeah, like
I think I'm a generalizer, but just say for example, like
I'm crying.
just say for example, like can I give you an example? I don't want to have to go into my personal bag, but shit, okay. Being irrational in a relationship from my point of view is you putting expectations on somebody for them to react or act a certain way when those expectations might not fit them as a person. Mm-hmm. You're adding a control factor because you know if said person lives a certain way, they're going to cause you some form of discomfort in that relationship. So you kind of like have this barrier of expectations, and you should have expectations, mm-hmm. but your barrier of expectations should not be controlling. To where like if they do that, like if you're already processing it in your mind, like if they do this, that, and the third, then I'm leaving. You kind of have to like take things at face value and like say, okay, and not face value in the sense of irrational, even though I'm supposed to be giving an irrational example, but how you should look at it from a rational perspective is like, okay, let me take the time to understand why this happened and what can I do to make it better. If you're looking at it from an irrational perspective, it's like, okay, if she did this shit once, I know it's going to happen again, and I'm not going to give her the chance to do it again. Mm-hmm. Like that's kind of what I mean. Like
very rigid,
very very rigid.
You have those constraints.
Very
you
very
stick to them.
Closed tunnel vision per se, and you can't have tunnel vision in a relationship. Like you can have that vision of marriage, but it's not tunnel vision. It's like you have to go through some hardship because a lot of people who have these relationships and don't have any experience within that relationship, they get married and then they go through those hardships and they're like, what the fuck was I really getting myself into? Like, I'm seeing you for what you really are. And I mean, sometimes you have to have those moments where you test yourself. Like, do I actually try and work things out, or do I just say, you know what, fuck it, it's not worth my time? And only you at the end of the day can be that judge. So that's kind of like my irrational.
When you said about the parent being irrational, so I thought it was really interesting how by that parent thinking that they were rational, their actions turned out to be irrational. So it's like layers to it, and we're getting further and further to the point. It's like an atom. We're at the nucleus. Instead
of like just using the parent example, not in the relationship, but instead of the parent explaining why you shouldn't do something, they're just cutting it off altogether. And then if you still do it, then there's that physical force of why I told you not to do it and you did it anyway. So now there's a punishment instead of explaining why you shouldn't do it. Because if you're telling somebody not to do something, you already know the outcome, and you need to present that outcome before somebody goes out. And like, how many times have your parents told you don't do something because this will happen? And then there's sometimes it's like, all right, well, you can't go do this, and then there's no explanation. Have you ever had that?
Yeah.
I feel like if they're telling you not to do something with no explanation, it kind of like your rebel senses go off a little bit. Why can't I do it? And then you're tempted to do it.
And
then you go and do it.
Don't touch the stove.
Exactly. Didn't I tell you not to touch the stove? Well, I mean, you didn't tell me why I shouldn't touch the stove. Like, if I don't have any knowledge that the stove will burn me if I touch it, then you can't just expect me to know that. Like, so sometimes you gotta get burned.
That's funny. Interesting. But is there anything else you got on as far as that?
Burn the house down.
I just thought it was neat how, even within that debate right there, the same issues came up at a smaller level. So it's like you can't get away from it. Because even analyzing the situation, you create another situation.
Yeah, I was actually asking about what do you determine as a rational relationship. I wanted to see if we was on the same page, but we are. So
you wanted to?
Yeah, you wanted me to empty my bag.
No, I just wanted to make sure.
I wanted me to empty. Let's see what he got for me this week.
I just want to make sure, like, what do you, as far as irrational, like, I just make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got you. But what do you guys think? Do all people have equal value regardless of their actions, or is a person's value based on their actions? And the second question: are intentions or outcomes more important when judging whether actions are moral? So comment below. Let us know. All right. The third topic we want to go over, basically.
We do all three, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The third topic we want to go over, basically, Mr. Bryan Carey put us out. Basically, is social media ruining us? So he can basically go.
So this is a topic that I feel it's very popular, and a lot of people talk about it, but they don't really address the major issues. Like, it's a lot of cliches going into it, but I wanted to analyze it from a different standpoint and actually look at things that go overlooked. And I just wanted to see what we come up with tonight.
So is social media ruining us? You feel it is?
Do I feel it is?
Yeah.
No.
You don't?
I don't.
Interesting.
I feel like everything that we do on our phones, we've been doing. And that the phone is just a vehicle that facilitates our human proclivity to do certain things. Such as, so I was talking to a friend earlier, and she was saying how women they compare themselves on Instagram to each other, these ideal bodies. The women get the breast implants, the butt implants, the makeup, all this stuff. And I listened to her for a second, and I made sure I understood her point. But then I asked her, I said, hasn't this been going on? So like back in I can't say like a specific year or whatever, but like before the phones and Instagram and all this. So weren't women doing this weren't people comparing themselves to each other and with magazines? Like, you can look at a picture and say, oh well, I wish I looked like that, and doing that. It's just now we're doing it with individuals that are on our same level, not as people who are of a higher status, like on in the public eye. And then even before like the magazines, we compared ourselves amongst our peers in person. So like it's natural for us to do that. It's just that the phone makes it easier for us, and it raises those insecurities to a different level.
If you don't know what proclivity means, it's a tendency to choose or do something regularly. I did not know that.
Oh, you just looked it up?
Yeah, I had to look it up. Like this, I've been watching it. I've been like, you know what? Hold on, let me open up a new tab and go to Google and see.
Yeah, you just saved us like a few unsubscribes.
Oh, wait. That's interesting. You have social media. What do you think? Do you think it's ruining us?
I mean, hearing what he said is kind of hard to say social media in itself. I think it's kind of like if you're going to point out social media, you have to look at what came before social media.
Right.
And what came before that. And then you have to go to the source because social media isn't the source.
We're the source.
Exactly. And even if you want to say we're the source, you could, like, I don't know what you can go to in certain time that was the first form of social media that enabled people the chance to compare their lives to somebody else's.
See, I looked at that, and I was able to trace it back to, they had a timeline that I found, and they were saying that you can actually consider the first telephone as a very primitive form of social media. And I thought about it. I kind of didn't agree too much, but I could kind of see what they did. Social media is essentially a tool that allows you to bridge a gap between two people that normally wouldn't be able to interact in a fashion like face-to-face interaction.
See,
And the phone did that.
you take that and like you think about it. I'm like, you know what? I can think of the amount of times my mom was on the phone for 2-3 hours gossiping with her bunkos girls. Like, nah, I wouldn't have said the phone because I wasn't, my mind wasn't churning yet.
Before
but
that,
the phone definitely.
I got one before
You
that.
don't say the typewriter, bro.
Nah. Well, actually, nah.
No.
No, but like written letters. People sending letters.
But those are more
From
personal though.
More personal.
In the sense of it's one person to the other person. It's not.
So it's a phone call.
Yeah, but okay. I see you saying like is it like broken
The
windows
communication, yeah, that too. But the communication being bridged to two common parties who normally, due to I guess their geographic location or whatever, they're not able to interact and they're able to share ideas and everything. You could do that with phone, letters, all that.
Social media modern day social media just amplified it.
It's so much easier. Yeah, it's a more efficient version of what was already implemented and in place.
I'll give you that.
You said more efficient?
Yeah, way more efficient. Dude, do you know what you can do with this?
I'm not disagreeing with you.
This is a pocket computer.
And it moves faster than your
Right,
computer.
this moves faster than my computer. Like if I need to look something up, I go to my phone, not my computer.
That's funny. As far as the question though, ruining. I feel that's kind of that's like really detrimental. I wouldn't say ruining us. Detrimental, but of course it has positives. But I wouldn't even say it's like a huge negative as far as social media. But I definitely agree with what you're talking about. But I wouldn't say ruining. I feel that's kind of harsh. But I feel it has some negatives, but not necessarily ruining.
Are those negatives rational or irrational? Are you saying they're negatives because what you see from firsthand experience and just not going into thought and saying like, okay, well maybe this was happening before social media was even a thing?
No, that's what I was about to say. I was about to say, I don't know whether this is a thing. I highly doubt it. I was still about to say, what about some things like cyberbullying? I don't know how you guys take that, but cyberbullying,
Twitter fingers,
trolling, stuff like that. Yep, trolling, stuff like that. That comes with social media too.
Okay.
So do you?
I could give you that because
I was looking at that as
social media definitely gave some people who didn't have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
So I can give you that.
But excuse me, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I definitely can agree with that.
But that same behavior at the root, right?
Always,
bullying has already existed.
Yeah.
People been getting wedgies and
I kind of figured you're gonna say that, but cyberbullying is different though.
Cyberbullying, I think, is different because it occurs in a space in itself. It's not something that would occur in physical life. Like a lot of people, what they say on social media, it gives them that coat of armor to where they're protected behind the IP address and whatever else.
Yeah, until
you pull up that IP. Okay,
until you do that.
Find out where you at.
It's like, oh, you at 67 Marlborough Street. And so, wait, please.
I didn't mean it.
Wait, I was just playing, man. Come on, I was just playing.
Yeah.
But there's like some things like cyberbullying. Like go with that. You said bullying has been around, so technically bullying went up because of social media. Do you feel that's beneficial? Do you feel that's not?
Bullying is never beneficial.
You said bullying has what?
Bullying is never What did you say?
It's beneficial.
Yeah, bullying is never beneficial. Because when you questioned me, I thought what I said was like very intuitive. When you questioned me, I was like, yeah, what are you talking about? But yeah, bullying is not beneficial whatsoever.
Yeah, but that's people can argue like there's a height on bullying. So I mean that's ruining the social media trolling. People
cyberbullying thing. Now you say it's much harder for you to escape because like okay, so even if you're not participating in it, the bullying. Let's say somebody's beating you up in person. Okay, you can transfer to schools, but if somebody's cyberbullying you can once you go home from the school, it's still there. Other people they're still perpetuating and still spreading that material, whether you're there or not. So. Okay. You still suffer from the effects. It's not that one individual targeting you. It's a multitude.
I'm a proponent of just putting the phone down. Because you can walk away from it. If it's physical bullying, it's always going to be there. But if it's cyberbullying, you can...
Yeah, I understand it. It might seem easier said than done, but this generation, we're literally growing up on iPads and electronics and social media and stuff like that. So that's like, putting that down is like us turning off the lights and sitting in the dark. So like,
but no, I definitely agree with a lot of people to a degree. But you say like so, for you to just like get off the phone. So let's say a rumor's getting spread. So I turn this off, but still other people are hearing it. So then when I see them in person, I encounter that same thing. They have that preconceived notion, whatever they heard, I still hear it. It still affects me. It changes other people's perception and judgment of you based upon something that may or may not be true.
So cyberbullying just amplifies regular bullying.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
But it's another thing I wanted to talk about too is the fact that we assign value to ourselves. How I said it tied into question one. You was like, oh, how did it tie in? Well, let me tell you. So it seems to be like a direct correlation between self-esteem and likes, shares, retweets, whatever platform you have, their respective form of it. So we tend to create our social currency and give and derive one's worth from the amount of likes that they get from a picture. Like a lot of times, like I'll see people on Instagram, they'll post a picture and they'll say, "Oh, I'm not sure if I like it. I might take this down later." No, what you mean is if you don't get a certain amount of likes, you're taking it down. That's all that means. They don't care about whether they like it. They like that picture, but they said, "Well, if I don't get X amount of likes or whether a lot of people don't like it, I'm taking this down because it looks bad." They feel like it makes them a less of a person. It wears their self-esteem. People's self-esteem is very fragile these days.
I think the self-esteem is always fragile. It just allows you to capture it through social media.
It's a different way of manifesting it.
Makes sense. Do you feel that's beneficial though, as far as?
No, well, I said it's not. So social media, my stance on the issue is that it's not ruining us, but I'm saying that all these things were already in place, and the bigger thing at play is we need to deal with ourselves adequately first and use social media responsibly. Use everything responsibly. Same thing with gun control. Social media is very complicated.
That's the rational. That's the rational thing to do. But
I see rational and logic are two different things.
Yeah, that's the rational thing.
Rational means just a way to deduce, but logical is like technically the scientific thing.
I feel that's collapsing a lot from people. But saying handle social media responsibly.
Driving a car responsibly.
Exactly. I know that's a lot to say. Like, and then social media responsibly. Like, people are gonna ask, like, what does that mean? Why can't I talk about it?
But what does that say about us? If there's more irresponsible people.
Attention spans are shrinking as the years progress. Because I mean, just think about it. Like, what can't you do on your phone? What can't you do?
Basic physical needs, that's about it.
Well, no, okay, so I'm going to elaborate a little bit.
Yeah, please.
So, reason why I say our attention spans are shrinking so much, think about the amount of time like we spend on social media just flipping back between apps. Because, okay, one, I know I did this a lot on Twitter. When I was on Twitter won't pop in, hop in Instagram. Instagram won't pop in, hop in Snapchat. And it was like a constant cycle. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that as I became more active on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat, my ability to sit down and actually read a book had decreased tremendously to where like I would be reading the book and then my mind would go, what the fuck is happening on Twitter?
Yeah.
Like my ability to like keep my mind at a state of function that just revolved around reading a book had decreased tremendously because
Can I get that retweet?
What's
Did
the,
she-
what's the sign, man?
Yeah, I don't know.
Ain't like a bird tweet?
Oh, no, that's the bird. The
I think
bird
it's
noise
tweet.
is when you swipe down
Okay.
to get the feed to. No, you're right.
Okay.
That what it is?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, okay.
And I haven't been on Twitter since 2016.
But see, I want to ask you a question now. So why was the reason that you kept bouncing app from app? Like why'd you just keep checking all these platforms? What was the reason?
Value.
Value?
Yeah. Value in the
yourself,
sense
or
of
you're scared you're gonna mess up.
value in the sense to where I had created a social life that revolved around me communicating, and today it's clout, but I had the ability to reach out to numerous people and get responses that could vary from anywhere, wherever it was just basic talk, or we were having music debates, or just being with my talking to my boys, like stuff like that. So it had become my main form of communication. And so it's almost became like addictive in the sense to where it was like the rush you got from posting memes. Like memes are hot now, but memes was the shit in like 2013, 14 because you had a response for anything with a meme, and for y'all to say meme, this ain't for you. This ain't for you, man. But no, but I mean, it was just like. That's where my value was at. Like when I would be with my parents, and I would have more fun on Twitter talking to friends who were 100 miles away, thousands of miles away, because it does enable you to keep in touch with those who are no longer in the area. Like I used to live in Japan, so Twitter was a way that I could keep in contact with those people from Japan. And when they moved, back to the States, that was my main source of communication. Like for a while, I didn't text nobody because Twitter was. You had everything on Twitter. You had everything on Snapchat. You had everything on Instagram. So, repeat your question so I can officially answer that.
Is social media ruining us?
No. You asked
so
why.
So why did you? What was it initially that would make you just like toggle in between the apps, even after you already? Let's say you go Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook.
It was a development of a routine.
The development of the routine.
Development of like you subconsciously developed a routine to where it was like. You just flipping through apps.
Did you feel like you were gonna miss out on something?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
It's kind of like if you've ever been on like
it's
gaming
like, I want
platforms.
to say it's like a habit too.
Yeah. Habits, and it's like if you ever been on like a gaming platform, and like your boys get on and they've been playing a game since like 8 o'clock, and you get on at like 10:30, and niggas are like, "All right, bro, I'm about to get off." And you're like, "Wait, hold up, where y'all going? I just got on. I'm trying to run Call of Duty too." Like. It was almost like that. You not wanting to miss out on the opportunity to be included, per se. And that comes from an introvert who had to find his niche to where it wasn't always just avoiding people. So for a lot of people, like Twitter enabled them to step out of their comfort zones. And then people you meet on Twitter, when you meet them in person, it's like y'all just click instead of you having to go through that, that intake part.
So that's a positive.
Exactly.
It allowed you to see that cross section of that person's personality.
Yeah.
Maybe you both were like, maybe y'all both involved, something like that.
Exactly. But it was a negative in the sense to where like it stalled my own personal development because
That was
I
your
was
primary
more
form.
exactly.
Okay. So you became too self-reliant on that as your primary medium of communication, and you neglected your actual social skills.
Yeah.
Interesting. I did the same thing. Well, not exactly the same thing, but I definitely looked at it as more of a habit. I never really looked at it as more of missing out on something because I didn't.
Think about
think
about how many funny ass conversations used to occur on Twitter, and you wouldn't see it till the morning after.
7 hours.
Honestly,
ago.
I didn't.
You've been
Oh
like,
my
I didn't
good.
really care, though.
Oh my god.
If I was going on Twitter, like if I was steady on Twitter like throughout the
Yeah.
day, it was because I was stalking someone. I'm not gonna fret. I'm stalking somebody. That's because that's why I'm on Twitter, like literally, like all the time throughout the day.
What the fuck you do?
What is what's her name saying? That's why.
I
Cause
really appreciate your honesty.
But think about it
No,
though. Think
serious.
about how many times you've texted somebody, you go to Twitter, and they on Twitter tweeting like,
Oh man, that would be my blood boil.
I just stopped caring. You know? I just
But yeah, it's like more of a habit.
I just took the outcome instead of looking for why.
Look, the value dropped.
Fuck the intention, man.
You okay. I'm not gonna ask why, but okay.
But yeah, I just like
see.
It's like more of a habit. Like you lay in the bed, go on the phone. Like even if like I have my books on my phone. Like even if I'm on my phone, like what's on Instagram? Like, next thing you know, you scrolling down Instagram. Like it's like a habit thing. Like you never know. So that's how it is.
And it's almost like it's like unintentional to where you will be reading your book and you will just. And then the book is put down. And then next thing 2 hours later, it's like,
God damn, I read my book. Shit. What am I doing?
You're 7 weeks back in your story.
Exactly.
You never reading and shit. Yeah.
All right, class. Can anybody tell me, what happened? Because we had in college comp, like at TCC, we had to read independently, and then we would have discussions in class. And I would always be the nigga in class on my phone, like, yep, don't call on me, because I can't read it.
That's funny.
See, the phone thing, you said like scrolling in bed. So I'm a big advocate for. I try to do this. It's not always practical because I might wake up late for work sometime or whatever. But for the first hour, or it's at least 30 minutes, I try not to touch my phone whatsoever. Because what it does, I did a lot of reading about it, and there's a lot of studies on it. So what it does is you're waking up and you're trying to catch the last night's notifications, all the things you could have missed. You're trying to catch up with what happened yesterday, versus taking your time and slowly going through those brain cycles, because we have different cycles we get up in the morning. And by you doing that, you're shocking yourself into a stage you're not ready for. You're not that awake yet, and you're starting on a bad foot.
I'm sorry. Is it bad that I look at it as literally in a micro way? Like I check my phone in the morning. It's not because I'm looking for notifications about what's happening last night.
You're different than most people.
I was gonna say,
some people let's say
you've evolved to the point to where you just don't care.
Yeah.
he had to develop the wherewithal of, okay, this is why I should not check my phone at some point. Like you were just like, you know what, fuck it, I really don't care.
Like I might waste a few minutes. Let's say, okay, I wake up for work at 6:30 in the morning, right? And I might not get out of bed until like 6:40, 6:45. Okay, but some people who won't get out of bed until
you said
like
6 o'clock in the morning.
I wake up at 6:30.
Oh,
I might not
6:30.
get out to like 6:10. But this is when I was using the phone in the bed or whatever. So I might not get out to like 6:10, 6:15 because I was messing around on the phone.
What time is
it? But why'd you do that? So by me wasting that time, it's just. I saw the difference in how I felt when I did and when I didn't. So when I took that time when I got up in the morning, I cut the alarm off, didn't mess with anything. I took the time to slowly, I made my tea, did the yoga in the morning, took my shower, ate my breakfast. I was fully refreshed. I wasn't trying to catch up with anything else. I was living in the moment, just enjoying the isolated space. My peace that I created, I was enjoying that. It's so much better versus, waking up and, especially like, if you want to just look at it from the most immediate thing, it's running late. You just wasted 15 minutes of time you could have been using to get to work, to get to school, to do whatever, because you're in bed on your phone.
I think I would have had to go through that same phase if I would not have like pressure cracked every phone I had. And having to go without a phone, it's like that natural separation. So like you pick it up, you're like I can't do shit, and you pick it up, and you realize you can't do shit until it just gets to the point where you're like you reach for your pocket. And you're like, all right, I already know I can't do shit. So then you find other things to occupy your time. Like, I just had to naturally detach from it. So then when I got my phone back, found myself not checking social media. Get up there and it was like, feed last refresh 6 hours ago. I'm like, you know what? I'm trying to scroll through 6 hours.
It's no fun. It's no fun. But yeah, even with Instagram, like I said, even with Instagram, like I'm not worried. I'm trying to see who's online, what they're liking. I'm going through them. I go through who they're liking.
You are the biggest stalker I know.
Listen. Nobody would know until it wasn't for this. But listen, I just see who they're like. I don't give a fuck what you're posting most of the time. I'm looking to see what you're liking, who's online, what's going on, was last time he's online.
I was too self-centered, bro.
Not everybody though. Certain people. Yeah. I'm worried about.
I was too self-centered, bro, to even think about that stuff.
But even with the like the new stuff happening in like the news, like people beefing and stuff like that. That's why I usually don't hear about it until like later on, like afterwards.
You don't care about it.
Yeah, I'm not like I'll hear about it when I hear about it. Like
they're not in your
when I hear the album, I heard the album, but I'm not like Okay, y'all talk about it. Okay, cool. I'm gonna focus on something else and then I'm come back.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I do. But that's why I don't. Okay, that's why I said that's part of what I said. How I do is rational, but what I'm doing that is not, or that's irrational as hell. That's how I feel. Because I'm not worried about the entire news. I'm just worried about specific people or one person or something like that. You know. But yeah, that's what I do.
Nah, I was about to say, if y'all can't tell, he from New York. He moved like a New York nigga.
As far as back at the social media thing, people also say like social media made people lazier. Do you feel that?
No.
You don't feel it's made people lazy?
Man, people been sitting on their asses watching TVs for years. Come on now.
Like
you think a phone and social media? Nah.
As far as okay, how about people as far as say
maybe deter work ethic, but you know what? You can't even say that.
Well, you can. Well,
I'm
counterpoint. You can't take the phone to work. You can't take your TV to work. So,
as far as like kids
this is
growing
the TV
up,
now.
they just have these kids growing up. They just have these electronics and stuff like that. That's making them lazier. They don't want to go outside anymore. Like
I wouldn't say lazy. I definitely think it deters your work ethic, and I can say that
and you don't feel that's ruining us.
I think it does because this definitely is my TV.
So social media is ruining us.
No. We're more or less getting on.
You're saying for these younger generations getting raised up.
Yeah.
Because it de-incentivizes traditional play the way they go outside and interact. They don't need to do that.
Are you saying it's not ruining us as in this generation, not the people growing up?
The adults. Like I can't speak for them. Well,
okay. That's totally different. I thought you were talking about for everybody.
See, I kind of came.
We're not even gonna start that negative trend of blame. Did y'all see the there was
blame?
Millennials are to blame for people not buying cheese?
What?
Let me pull it up. I am not lying to you. But there's something going on regarding cheese, and they are blaming millennials because millennials aren't buying cheese.
Side note, I was really pissed the other day because I read that a lot of times when they say it's not real cheese, it says cheese product on the pack. And I went in the refrigerator, and the cheese I had, it said cheese product. So I went and bought authentic cheese because of that.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
You said,
did you see it?
Nah.
There was something about cheese, and they were. I want to say CNN posted because CNN always posting that much shit. Let me look.
You said it's a shortage of cheese?
No. I don't want to.
Or they're not buying.
Don't quote me, boy, because I ain't said shit. I ain't said shit yet. I'm going to CNN right now.
Yeah. But you don't feel social media has made people lazy, or just a work ethic?
No, I think if anything, like just with what was I? Just when we were speaking about bullying, I think it amplifies it. It puts it on a larger scale to where you see the direct effects of it. You know, whereas before, it was a constant. It might have been a constant issue then, but like it wasn't at everybody's disposal for them to obtain that information. Where's it at?
I see a few articles about cheese and millennials.
You just Googled it, didn't you?
Yeah.
Smart man.
I'll read into them later.
Can you read the headline? So I'm not.
Okay, so the headline, one of them says weddings, cheese, radio. What will millennials kill next? We're some terrible people. Millennials blamed for the travails of American cheese.
There we go.
That's the article.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if that's CNN, but it's something along that.
That was a newser, and this one, the third one is millennials kill again. The latest victim, American cheese.
Do y'all hear this?
God damn.
I can't have nice things.
Millennials.
A lot of these things.
It's like hard.
It seems like
some hardcore headlines. Yeah, millennials kill again.
These days, the way the news is set up, they make hyperboles out of everything, and they over exaggerate it. So when the time comes for us to actually use these labels when they're appropriate, they're watered down.
I can't find it.
That's crazy. But
I'll stop eating grilled cheese this month because I've upgraded my palate. Keep that cheese shit away from
use aged cheese.
Anything else you guys want to go off of?
No, I'm good, man.
I think we done covered our bases.
Gotcha. But yeah, as far as lazier, you don't feel it makes people lazier, but okay, that's interesting.
Do I feel like it makes them lazy?
Of course, I was talking about
the younger generation.
Younger generation, of course. Oh,
I think it's too
soon.
It's too soon to say that. Like, people are so quick to say, back in my day. Well, nigga, back in your day, what were you doing? Anymore. Can you tell me explicitly what you were doing 365 days a year back in your day?
Right.
You can't. I know damn well your
If
ass
you
is-
had these things, what would you do?
sit on it and watch every goddamn episode, whatever your favorite TV show was.
It's the same thing that goes back to me saying, I feel like the lazy people were always lazy, and they'll always find a way to be lazy. It's just
But
it's only execution.
But you do agree that social media amplifies it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's due to that, it's still not ruining us. You feel
It itself, no. It's our lack of self-control.
the positives outweigh the negatives.
Yeah. It's like I said, our lack of self-control. We misuse it.
And think about how many businesses rely on social media.
Right.
Like, there are a lot of businesses that are 100% dependent on social media to push their product.
Dude, look at this podcast. I share it on all my social media. And our tech company, me and my homeboy Austin, the programmers, we make apps. So our livelihood is based upon social media because that's how we promote. So it's an absolute necessity. So for some people to say, just unplug or to abstain from social media, it's not practical. You kind of have to. It's a necessity in some ways.
Okay, makes sense. In the final, basically the final question, I wanted to say, okay, so say if you guys know about how they feel that social media has influenced the last presidential election and stuff like that. So say for instance that turns out to be true, and then the president ends up doing something very detrimental to the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Can you say social media ruined us then?
Oh, so you're just thinking in this specific example, you're saying if something happens to our country as a negative result of
Social media.
Yeah, of the current leadership or lack thereof, as the fault of social media.
Yeah.
Does you get
Would that make social media ruin us?
No, because
Does that mean social media is ruining us? No?
I wouldn't say that.
Even if
Because the people who get
It was
their
the people.
information from social media, I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, you have to use discernment.
Come on.
if
If you're gonna blame it on social media, you gotta go to Fox News and ask them to square up too, just as much as you gotta go to CNN and ask them to square up.
You gotta take this
I was just
responsibility to be a smart
asking
consumer.
I'm pretty sure whatever CNN or Fox News is saying is not much different than them Russian ads that were on Facebook.
No, it's everybody has an agenda.
It's already established that Facebook is tailored to stuff that you view in other browsers or whatever you like on Facebook. So
How many times you looked at a pair of shoes and they popped up?
I would be looking at glasses, go to Facebook, and Warby Parker would be an ad. Like
I'll be like on YouTube, and it, right next to the video, it'd be like, "Oh, you just looking at Forever 21 stuff? Like, you still got stuff on the tail?
You're still thinking about those?
Yeah, like, what? No, I'm trying to watch this video. Leave me alone."
Shade them with
Yeah, after every ad. Like, what the fuck? No. But
yeah, I was just asking simple question.
I think YouTube does that too, bro. I want to
does.
say I was looking at like Air Force information.
like recommend, like it show you recommend stuff. Oh yeah, definitely.
That shit's crazy if you think about it. Like, damn, bro, can I browse in peace? Like,
Imagine how many birthdays that's ruined. Because like you're trying to buy a surprise gift for somebody and then they end up using your computer.
I don't think it's ever. I've never looked at it. Well, then again, I'm on the tail end of the technological generation.
Last
But,
time
but what do you guys think? Is social media ruining us? Why? Why not? Let us know, all right? But that's basically the show. That's basically the show for today. Remember, comment, subscribe. Let us know how we doing. What's up? So, as you know, I'm Joshua Freeman. To my left, got Mr. Bryan Carey, Mr. Desmond Tillmon. We see you guys in the next episode. Peace.